And hello everyone, welcome back to a new video. So in the last video we talked about variables and stuff like that. Now that we have that underway, we can actually start talking about data types. And data types are some of the more deeper things we'll get to. I'm going to talk about the things we'll be using the most at the beginning, and the rest you can just know they exist. You don't have to know how to use them yet. You don't have to know anything about them yet. You just have to know they exist, because they are just there for later use. For beginners, you don't really need to know about them just yet. So let's start off with everything. So first off, we have a string. Now a string is something such as hello, or something such as my, you're tall, or something like that. String is basically either a word or a sentence, or even, let's go string 3, or even something such as a character. This in most languages is a character, but this in Python is basically a word. It's a string. Of course, you can also declare some things as a string from the beginning, like this. You can say, hey, this is a string. Of course, you can also do something like 2, and you'll see that's a string. We can actually print this out. Print string. And if we run this, do I not have a thing? Python 3, and we can just say youtube.py, and as you can see it gives us 2 as a string, which means we can actually do this plus test. And as you could remember, a string cannot be added with an integer, but because we just made this a string, we can say it's a string. And so we can also go hello. If we run this, hello test. So yeah, that's a string. Then we have an integer. Integers or numbers. So any whole number. So it can actually be -1, -99, 20. It could be anything. And we can also say int, and then what it should be, and this will automatically say, hey, this is an integer, this is a number, this. So yeah. So let's say 20. Now if we were to print out integer plus 5, then we should get 25, as you can see. But as soon as we say test, we're going to get an error, because you cannot add an integer and a string together. Of course, we can go int and do something like this, and that would still give us an integer value. And as I say, we can make this something like -20, and if we go here, we can actually say -20 plus let's say 5, that will make it -15. And if we say -5, that will make it -25. So yeah, that's an integer. Then we have a float, which can also be known as a double in a lot of cases, and in some cases it's also known as a real. But for Python, you need to know it's a float. You don't really need to know the rest, but just know that it's a float. And float is basically any decimal value, so like 0.4 or let's say 12.587 or -9.7 or 07. It's basically anything that has this little thing in there. So it's not a whole number like an integer. So just remember, keep that in mind. Also, you can declare it by doing float as well, and then it will automatically convert it to float if it's not a float already. So yeah, we can also, so pi is basically a float actually, so 3.14159 and whatever comes after that, and we can obviously do this float double real, and if we go here, then you see we get pi. Let's clear the screen. and then let's say we subtract from pi, we subtract something like 0.9. That would work perfectly fine, so 2.24. So yeah. Next up we have a boolean. Oh, why did I delete that print? Boolean. Now a boolean is just true or false, so it's either true or it is false. So it's basically yes or no, where true is basically yes, and false is basically no. Of course, we can also display boolean right here, so boolean, and then if we do this, it returns false. We can make it true if you want. We do this, and it's true. Just remember that this true and this true is not per se the same actually, because one is a string and the other one's a boolean. Those are two different data types. You can also do something like bool, and if you want to declare it in a strong way. So yeah, you have that. Then next up we have the things that for right now isn't that important. So we don't actually need to know them that bad. I just want you to know they exist right now. You don't have to know how they work. You don't have to know how to use them. I just want to show you that they exist. So the first thing I want to teach you all about is lists. So lists. List is basically an array or a list of things. So let's say let's do something like shopping list, and this is what you should buy. So let's say you should buy apples, and you should buy, let's see, DVDs, and you should buy 2. So just as an example that you can put anything in here, and you should buy true, and let's say 3.14. So this is basically a shopping list. We can do this, and if we were to do that, as you can see, it just returns a list. Of course, you can also, if you want, say list, and then you can do this. And of course, then if you do this, sorry about that, there you go. So you have that. Then you have something called a tuple. Now a tuple list is basically a list, but it has one key feature: it cannot be changed. This list can later have something like apples, and then we later on here, after we've declared the list, we add something such as panda, because we want to buy panda, and there will be no problem with that at all. So we can, down here, we can edit this, we can even remove things later on, so then there's that. Where the tuple, it is basically a list that cannot be edited. It cannot be modified in any way. Once you've created it, that's how it stays. So if you say 2, 5, 7, 0, and if you want, you can even say hello. This cannot be modified. After you have declared this tuple, you cannot modify it later on. So tuple list, and you go like that, and there it is. We cannot modify it. We cannot change anything in here. So yeah. In fact, you can actually think of this as a string as this, because we cannot actually modify a string just like that. If we want to remove something from the string, you basically have to create a new string. So basically this string up here, this hello string, is basically this. these two are theoretically the same because they're both constant, they cannot be modified. The only difference is this one is a list and you cannot append to it. You cannot add things later on to the back of it, where with this one you can add things to the back of the string later on. Anyways, and of course you can say it's a tuple if you want, but you know. Then you have a range value, and basically a range value is something like this. Let's say num1 to num 0 to 5, which is a range, and then we get to say something like 5, for example. If we were to print out num 0 to 5, then it just gives you range 0 to 5. But in fact, this actually contains all the numbers from 0 to 4. Because actually, we should make this 6 if we want 5. So we can actually check it out by doing something like 0. And you can see it returns 0. I will get later on to what that does, you know. But for right now, just know that it returned. This is basically the first value that we have, and this is the last value. So it goes from 0 to 5. Okay. Then we have another type of list, and this type of list is actually called a set. So let's say we have a shopping list again. But this shopping list should not contain any duplicates, which means if we want eggs, we should not buy eggs again. So let's say we have a robot that's going to go out and use this list to buy everything we need. Now if we put eggs on there 2 times accidentally, then the robot's going to buy 2 packets of eggs, decreasing the amount of money we have in the bank. So let's say we have let's do numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That shouldn't give you any problems. We can actually display it here. We run this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But as soon as we add duplicates, so 2, 8, 1, 5, 9, look what happens. It removes the duplicates. So it basically removed 2, 1, and 5, and it just kept 8 and 9, as you can see here, 8 and 9. So yeah, it just basically removes duplicates. So if we have 2 eggs on here, so let's say eggs and then eggs again, it's going to remove the one of the eggs because we only need 1 egg, or 1 packet of eggs. And then just like with list, you have one that cannot be modified. So we can say monthly shopping, and this is what you should buy at the beginning of each month once you've received your money for that time. Now this one you kind of have to declare as a frozen set because we're kind of running out of bracket types, as you can see here. So with this one you have to say frozen set, and then you have to put a set in here. So let's say they want to buy, each month they want to buy 2 Cokes, and each month they want to buy 500 kilograms of beef, I think. And then they also want, let's say each month they buy 1 car, Toyota. Each month they buy 1 Toyota. And if we were to just show this frozen set, as you can see, it's just a normal set basically. Now if we accidentally said, okay, I can remember, did we already add 2 cokes to the list? I don't know, let's add them just for in case. And like, okay, so it just gives you the same output because you cannot have doubles. But you can see also the coke moved a little bit, but yeah, that's, as you can see, the things do get a little bit mixed around sometimes. But anyways, so yeah, there's only one of them, and yeah, so it's basically just a set. So let's do this. List cannot be modified list. No duplicate lists. And then right, this one's a bit long, so I'm just gonna put it here, and we can say cannot be modified and have no duplicates list. Okay, so yeah, and then we have something called a dictionary. For those of you who know normal programming languages, you might know this as an object. So let's say we have a person, or let's say we have John, and then we have, let's say his name is John. That should be a double, not a thingy. And then let's say his age is 22. His money, for how much money he has in the bank, that is, let's say he has 90,923 rand or whatnot and 56 cents inside of his bank account, the rich bastard. And yeah, and if we just display John right here, you can see its name's John, age 22, money, and that's how much money he has. So it's basically just something that defines something else. You can also use a dict and surround this with dict, and as you can see, you get the same output. And yeah, we'll get into working with dictionaries later, and actually we'll get to working with all of these later. But for right now, the ones you need to know is this. What's a string, which is a word or a sentence or a character? What is an integer? That is a number that does not have decimal values. What is a float, or a double, or a real? Well, it's basically like pi, it has decimals. Also, just do something like a float if you want, and you can cover it in float. What's a boolean? A boolean is true or false. Yeah, that's for right now. Later on we'll get to more on this, but for right now you just need to know about this. Thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed it, and see you all in